Hey everyone, thank you for tuning in to another episode of Paranormally Beyond Disclosure. Now, we are a weekly podcast focusing on the paranormal, the supernatural, and the metaphysical. Now, join us for thought-provoking discussions on paranormal phenomena, conspiracies, and all things unexplained as we talk to researchers and investigators about ghosts and hauntings, UFOs and aliens, urban legends, cryptids, and so much more. Please be sure to like, subscribe, and follow to receive notifications when new content is made available. You can also visit us at www.paranormallypodcast.com for more content and information, including all our social links. I thank you again for watching and or listening, and we hope to see you for the next episode of Paranormally Beyond Disclosure. So grab yourself a drink and a snack, turn the lights off on the way back, find yourself a nice comfy spot, and enjoy this episode of Paranormally. Stay with us, folks. Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in tonight. We have a great guest here. Her name is Teri Lynge. Is it Kehl?
Kehl.
Yes.
Good.
I wasn't sure. I didn't want to hack your name. So I just did it phonetically and we got it. Teri has been in the MUFON. In fact, you're still with MUFON, correct?
No, I was a board member for 9 years. Okay. I am the executive director with the International UFO Bureau.
Okay, good. Now, Teri, go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself before we delve into all the good stuff here.
Well, a little bit about myself. I have always had a very paranormal life. I've never known anything different, really. My life has been just full of experiences, but mostly things that I never could understand. My parents didn't understand it. They didn't want to ever discuss it. They didn't want to talk about it. They just felt that, she's different, she sees things, she hears things. And I would try to tell them and they ignored me. So I grew up really believing that parents don't understand or they're not there for you. You're on your own when it comes to things they don't want to discuss. And that was a little difficult. So, from 5 years old, I started having very powerful experiences that even to this day, I haven't spoken to too many people that have had similar things. And I'm not really sure what it was all about. But in 1973, when I had my near-death experience, it all kind of came together for me. And so I spent from the 50s until the 70s just having a panoply of different types of experiences. So my life was normal other than all of this other paranormal stuff. And, back when I was young, people didn't talk about this. They would, think, whoa, something's wrong with you. And it was not like it is today. There was nothing like the Paranormally, Beyond Disclosure group or, anything like this. There were no podcasts. People just did not talk about it. And I tried to talk to a few friends when I was in school, and believe me, that was bad for me because people didn't want to associate with you if you were different. And if they couldn't understand you, you were just, you were bizarre. And so imagine growing up in that and nobody to talk to. And a few people had experiences through, like when I was in my 20s and stuff like that. But their experiences were so different. I couldn't understand theirs and they couldn't understand mine. There's so many different realms, that come to us and can interact in our lives at different times. Not everybody gets that. Like I had never remote viewed, but I have friends who remote viewed when they were little, and that was normal. I had friends that had dead people coming to them, but I couldn't identify with that because my experiences were not with dead people. They were with demonically possessed alive humans that I was going in. I was a part of a church, and I became a demonologist with Pastor Don Husted in Largo, Florida, at Liberty Christian. And I went with him to all of the really bizarre things, and he trained me. So that was in 1975. So, but anyway, I never heard about UFOs. Nobody ever talked about that, back in those days, because they really thought that that was the giggle factor, kind of a joke, kind of a comic book thing. It wasn't real, Inquirer kind of material. So you're probably both way too young to understand Inquirer, but that was something that was out, that was a tabloid back in the day when I was a young girl, and everybody read it, and it was full of, I made love to Bigfoot and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, Bat Boy and all those good ones. I remember that.
Do you remember all that? Yeah.
I do, yes.
Well,
I really think that kind of content, like the Inquirer and low-grade B science fiction movies, was intentionally put into the media space to kind of marginalize the whole subject and to associate the subject with fiction, and
exactly.
to give it a strong vibe of fiction in the minds of everyone.
Good. I'm glad you had to say that because you're so young. I'm glad that you're aware of that and totally awake to the facts. We were being duped as nuts because they did not want this subject to be a part of any conversation. Yeah.
So you had loads of experiences, paranormal experiences, before the, I guess, abduction experience in 1979, which we're going to get into first.
Right.
So you were already kind of ontologically modified as far as your view of reality and your perception of the world and things prior to the UFO experience. So that's a little bit different than a lot of abductees, who, the moment that they see aliens for the first time, there's a kind of ontological shock and, upheaval coming from the realization that reality is nothing like they thought. So you were already kind of steeped in otherworldliness prior to this. Do you want to go into, let's go into the 1979 abduction experience and give us the full breadth of detail. Let's move into it slowly and methodically and
Okay.
totally unpack it completely.
Okay. Well, 1979, I had been working previously at Honeywell Aerospace as a secretary, and I had been laid off. My mother was she was an executive member of Honeywell Aerospace in their protection division, and my sister worked at Honeywell as a secretary as well, and that was in Clearwater, Florida. And I had been laid off after going into the Gemini project, after Minutemen and things like that. And I had taken a part-time job, and I did it at night so that my two sons, my husband could be home at night, and then I was home in the day while he was working, because we didn't believe in babysitters and that kind of thing. So anyway, I'm working. I get off of work. I'm in Clearwater, Florida, but I lived in St. Petersburg, Florida, which is about 50 miles. And so I had this little Honda Civic, and that thing, I drove at 100 miles an hour to get home, because I was in a hurry to get home. And I'm not kidding when I say that. I took back roads and went as fast as I could to get home.
Was that unusual?
Was that what?
Was your hurry to get home unusual in any kind of way, or was that typical?
it was my typical thing because, it was 2:15 in the morning. I left at 2. And by the time I got home, it was about 15 minutes. And I mean, I was really hauling. And, this little car, and I knew where to go where it wasn't the big, big roads where maybe police officers could find me or anything. So anyway, every night I was in a hurry to get home. And as I came off of 38th Street North, and turned down my street on 28th Street North, going into my area where my neighborhood was, there is a train track that ran across this Morris Street area. And, and I never saw anything on that train track at 2:15, 2:20 in the morning. It was always empty. Well, this particular night, I'm coming down and I see something on the train track, and I'm like, what is that? And I'm coming pretty quick, in my little Honda Civic. And I'm getting closer to it and closer to it. And I'm looking through the windshield and going, what the heck? That is not a train. I can see underneath it. There are no wheels. I can see above it. I can see on either side. It isn't attached to any other trains. And then I'm looking at it more and I'm like, that's not square, it's oval. And I said out loud, Lord, you have got to be kidding me. And I'm rolling closer to this now. And I'm about like 158, under 200 feet away from this thing. And my car had shut off. I was so shocked I didn't even realize it had shut off. And I'm rolling towards this thing. It's hovered over the railroad track. I went back later and measured. It was 42 feet long.
Was it over the stretch where the road crossed? Was it
yes,
blocking the road?
You know where the two things are that come down like this?
Mm-hmm.
It literally fit right between there. And
it was illuminated. It was illuminated, so where you could see it clearly. Like there was
I could see it clearly, which was also kind of bizarre because it was dark out. But there are some street lights there, and there was a house over on the left side. It had a porch light on, and there was a business over on the right-hand side, and they had one of those long lights in front of it. But other than that, there really was no lights. Beyond that, about a block away was, 28th Street and 30th Avenue. And it had a stoplight. So it had the red, yellow, and green, hanging stoplight. And what was really strange was I could see everything, no cars. I was like the only car. And that was kind of usual, but there was always usually somebody, And anyway, I saw that I was by myself. And as I'm looking at this thing, my car stops, which freaked me out because the Civic had never had a hiccup. I mean, not even a problem at all. And now all of a sudden my car is dead, which freaked me out. And I said, oh my God, you have got to be kidding me. That can't be a UFO. That is comic book entertainment. Lord, that cannot be a UFO. And so as I'm watching this thing with my own two green eyes, it's got this blue light going along the center of it. And it is the most...
Like a single blue light moving in a circular...
One single blue light going around. And you can see that it's doing that it's actually going around.
It was doing that from the get-go, or did it start?
From the get-go.
Okay.
No, it from the get-go. I saw that blue light, which is why I'm like, that's not square. That's, that's a circular thing. What the heck? And I just couldn't believe my eyes. Because I didn't believe in UFOs. I thought that truly was comic book entertainment. I just didn't believe it. So anyway, now I'm believing it because I'm seeing it. And I can't help but believe what my eyes are seeing. Mm-hmm, and right. I kept saying, you've got to be kidding me. You've got to be kidding me. How can this be? And I was really kind of like maybe a mini shock or something. Excuse me.
And it was a
And
disc. It was a disc. You say it was ovular.
it was a
You
disc
describe it
with a little bit of a hood on top,
bulge. Okay.
not a big one,
Not like
not
a
a,
domed.
it just was a dome, and it was actually beautiful. This thing was a pewtery silver. It had no rivets, no windows, no doors. It almost looked like it was a biological living thing. I know that sounds crazy. I
No.
was 27 years old. I could not wrap my mind around what my eyes were seeing.
So that's the
So it was
vibe that it had. Just like when you see an animal, you know, you can tell that it's something living, even if it's not moving, even if it's standing still. There's some kind of vibe that living things give off that signal to the brain that it's something living. So you sense
right.
something like that, like it almost felt like
It
a living
was
craft.
it was bizarre. I had never seen a craft. I had never seen anything hover. And I just had never seen anything like that. So being a non-believer and quite the skeptic, I'm talking to the Lord, because in 1973, I had had an NDE, and I had spoken to the Lord, met the Lord, had an experience that changed my entire life. And this was not a part of that. So it was just so bizarre. But anyway, the conundrum continued. As I'm sitting there, I said to myself out loud, Teri, my God, whatever you do, don't get out of the car. And the minute I said that, my hand went to the little handle and opened the door. And I actually said this because this was a real conundrum for me. I said, what are you doing? Do not get out of the car. And the next thing I know, the door is open and I'm standing there. Now, I swear, and I know this sounds crazy, I didn't open that door and get out. My hand was on the doorknob, but I don't have any recollection of actually doing it. And then I said to myself, what the heck? And I grabbed the door jamb and I was holding on white knuckled, looking at this thing. And back in 79, we didn't have fiber optics. And this thing was this beautiful, calming blue fiber optic like light.
So it had a calming effect.
It was the whole craft had a calming effect, which I thought was absolutely bizarre, and my mind could not distinguish how is this happening where I'm not screaming like out of my mind. And I'm standing there now holding the door jamb. The next thing that happened, I don't recall it at all. I'm in front of my Honda Civic and I'm looking at that thing and I'm like, oh, how did I get here? Oh, how did I get here? And I'm getting chills. I'm getting scared. I'm getting freaked out a bit. And this thing is still going. No sound at all. No movement of the trees or anything. No dogs barking. Nothing. I mean, like I was in a bubble. And I thought, okay, this is really bizarre. How did I get here? Go ahead.
Let's just linger on that for a second. So
Okay.
like you saw the craft and there were some moments that had passed where you're looking at it in disbelief and you're seeing the light, and then you go for the door, and then you have a revelation like, oh my God, where am I? As if you suddenly had woken up, like you were. So do you think that there was an altered state that came over you, or do you think you were being robotically controlled, or what do you think happened there insofar as the sudden sort of awakening moment?
It wasn't robotically, Jim. It was intelligently. I was being manipulated, and I maneuvered from, and I swear before God, I don't remember ever letting go of that window jamb. I don't. But the next thing I remembered was I was in front of the Honda Civic and I'm sitting there looking at this thing and I can't believe it. Like I said, it was truly a conundrum. There is no doubt about it. And as I stood there, I don't know how long I stood there looking at this thing, just hovered. All of a sudden, this blue light from my right side shone on me, this really beautiful blue fiber optic like light, which we did not have. I had never seen anything like that before.
A thin or wide beam?
It was huge. It was wide.
Mm-hmm.
And it was kind of like that. I mean, really wide. The one going around the center of the craft was thin, you know, but this was this huge, wide, almost like a full street.
So presumably like the beam that abductees typically describe as, you know,
I
beam.
didn't know abductees did that.
Right. At the time you had no idea, but presumably this is probably that, right?
I was walking into this, no knowledge at all, totally skeptic, unbeliever. I was a Christian. Okay. I was in the worship team at church. I sang. My kids were in, you know, Christian school. I mean, this wasn't me. Okay. And I even said to the Lord out loud, why would you show me this nonsense? And this is what I heard him say just before the blue light came. I remember him saying to me, Teri, there is so much you do not understand. And I thought, yeah, no kidding. I'm not the smartest, you know, brightest, you know, star in the sky or anything, but you got to be kidding me. And I kept saying that over and over again because of my shock, you know. So as I looked over to my right, I saw something coming out and I was like, whoa, whoa, whoa. And I looked down. I was at least 2 feet off of the pavement where my car was. My car was on the pavement.
And you hadn't noticed until that moment that you had.
Until I looked down, I had no clue. I was not, it felt like I was standing on the pavement in front of my car. It did.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know how that happened. And so from my right eye, as I'm looking at him, I'm like, oh my God, you've got to be kidding me. Oh my God, I am not looking at that. I'm not looking at it. And then I don't know how long I stood there that.
What was the feeling? Describe that feeling a little more. You saw it. Was it
ugliness,
fear, or
a huge head with big eyes, very thin neck, very thin body, ridiculously thin body,
implausibly
long arms. Pardon me?
Implausibly thin, like it couldn't exist.
I'm telling you, yes, skeletally thin, but it had some form of meat on it. But I couldn't I couldn't. You know, your mind tries to figure out what you're looking at, and I couldn't. Nothing was coming to me saying, "Oh yeah, this is like this or this is like that." No. I was totally in a place I'd never been before. I could not mentally describe to myself what I was thinking. That's frightening. Okay, that is a form of fright. And yet, in the fright, I was being comforted, weirdly comforted. And I did think of screaming, and I never screamed. I did think of running, but I never ran. And that's what I mean when I say, you know, I was really comforted somehow by that craft in front of me. Now, little did I know, over to the right was a second craft that had landed. I didn't see that one as I'm pulling up. I'm focused on the one that's over the railroad tracks. I didn't see the one over here that was fully landed. And all of a sudden, there's this tall white, and I could see the blue light was shining right straight through him, which was ultra freaky. And I couldn't wrap my mind around that. And he didn't have a bone structure. Have you ever put your thumb on a torch and looked at your finger, your nail bed through the light because you've got it on the light?
Yeah. Yeah, you can see the light through your finger.
You can see the light right through your finger. I could see the light right through him. And that's all I could identify at that second.
So let's linger on the visual appearance of the alien just to get the full description. So it was tall and it was white-skinned, very, very thin, frail-looking thin.
Very frail looking, and no clothes, just a body. And I'm here to tell you, they do not have penises. They don't have, vaginas. They're not like us. They're other than we are. And when people tell you that they are, I would like to say, for the record, they're lying, because these beings are not us. These are completely different. It's like saying that I look like a cat or I look like a fish. No, I don't.
So you're also saying that you don't think that they're future humans.
They are not humans.
And there was nothing in the area where our genitalia would be. There was nothing there, or was there? There
was nothing there. Are you kidding? They're so tiny. Yes, they're very thin. They're very small. This tall white was very thin, very small. There was nothing there, and I could see him. And I didn't want to look at his face because I had never seen anything so frightening. It was like,
describe the face.
It had no nose, no ears, no hair. It had just this flatness. It was very strange looking, no mouth, nothing here, just these eyes. And it was a bigger head, too big for the little stick neck that it had, which did not compute. I could not identify anything like that. And every little thing was frightening me. I'm 2 feet off the stinking ground. I'm seeing this thing. And while I'm looking at him, he turns me, and now he's on my left side, and I'm going this way towards him. And I'm like, oh no, I'm not looking at that. And I'm almost right equal to him now. And I fainted. I passed out. Something happened. I don't remember what happened at all. I lost it.
The consciousness stream ended, but perhaps, according to some, abduction research, you don't actually go unconscious then. You go into an altered state, and you find out sometimes later in regression that you actually stayed conscious past that point. But for some reason, your conscious memory.
Yeah, I know that now, Jim. Then I did not know anything. So I'm only telling you what I was experiencing.
Gotcha.
And so I thought I fainted. The next thing I remembered, I was in that craft, the one that had landed. I was laying down in a fully white room. Nothing in that room wasn't white, except the 2 grays that were near my feet, which had these longer fingers. And it looked like there were either 3 or maybe 4. I don't know. I remember waking up and picking my head up to look around, and I saw these 2 things, and I'm like, oh my God. And I screamed that out. And I could see that I was fully dressed. I had my work uniform on, and I had these little beige sandals on my feet. And I'm like, okay, I can get up. I can run. I can get the heck out of here. I don't know where I am. I don't know where this is. And here's
so you weren't in paralysis. Interestingly,
at that moment, I was not in paralysis. I don't know how I got in there at all. I don't remember being taken in there. Like I said, when I got this close to him, I lost it. Either he shut me down or I literally did faint, and they moved me into the craft. I don't know. I can't tell you what I don't know.
Yeah, which is typical with the conscious recall of abductees. A lot of times they will remember, the experience, in their bedroom, but they don't remember the going into the craft, and then the next conscious memory, they're in the craft. That's very typical. As far as the appearance of the small grays that you saw, would you say that they, in terms of the head and the face and the eyes, etc., would you say that they resembled the tall white creature that you saw, but just smaller, or were the faces very different?
Very different. Their heads were not huge like that. They did have eyes, but they were thinner and smaller, and their heads were more like this. And they were
like
short.
An upside down pair, rather than, So would you say that the tall white had kind of like an upside down teardrop, kind of came down to sharply to a point type head structure like
No,
that? Or
his eyes were very large. He had very large eyes that
the eyes,
they do the
but
teardrop.
the
They
head
were
shape,
more like this. The what? I'm sorry.
the head shape, did it seem like an upside down teardrop where it was rounded at the top and then came to like a pointed chin, or was it rounded at the chin?
As best I remember,
Mhm.
and he did come. I won't go ahead of myself. Let me. Well, they were not the same creatures at all.
Oh,
I
okay.
didn't know at the time there was such a
Yeah.
thing as grays. I only knew what I saw were these smaller beings, not tall like him, not thin like him, but thin. And they were first standing by the white wall, and the whole room was like a suck down. And in 1979 we had light bulbs kind of like the ones above me, which are like yellowish, they're kind of yellowish. And and we didn't have a soft white bulb in 1979. And so I was again kind of in this conundrum, like, what the heck?
So that was
And
light
the
that you'd
walls
never
were
seen
glowing
before.
never. Well, we
Yeah,
didn't even have those kind of lights.
that's
And
interesting.
so
There was no white light.
we had those long neon lights, in the workshops, and we had our regular screw-in bulbs that always kind of had like a yellow effect. And this was a soft, comforting white glow. And the floor had it, the walls had it, the ceiling had it, what I was laying on had it. There was almost, I'm pretty sure it was like a chair or something, and it had it. Everything glowed, but everything was pure white. And it was very much like you were in a surgical room. It was incredibly clean. And there was a light up on top of me, but again, it was like just a part of that ceiling, and it was that soft white glow, very easy on the eyes, which blew me away. I'd never seen that before.
What else was in the room besides the beings and the walls and the light?
The
Was there
table I was
obstacles
on,
or?
yeah, I didn't see windows, doors, nothing. There was something over on the right-hand side, and I only remember some of this because of the regression therapy that Kathleen Marden took me through. But I don't recall if there was anything else. Believe me, I was traumatized. And I remember just sitting up, not sitting up, but laying back and bringing my head up like this, like with your hands on the table, and looking at my body going, I'm dressed. I've got my little beige sandals on. I was ready to like get out of there. And then I focused all of a sudden and saw them. And I'm like, oh my God, you've got to be kidding me. And I'm like, what the heck is that? And the one that was on the left side, one was directly down from where I was laying. And the one on the left side was coming up. And my sandal, he was touching my shoe, which then his fingers touched my ankle. And I went, oh no. And that was the only, it didn't hurt. I was just freaked out. It didn't hurt me at all.
What do you think
But
he was doing? What was he doing with your foot?
I think he was just trying to calm me. I'm not even really sure, because then the very next thought that came into my mind was, where's that white thing? Where's that ugly white thing? And man, boom, he was right there. And I looked up, and that's when I saw those eyes. So they weren't like this on the head. They were like that.
But almond shaped, all the same, but just horizontally.
Almond shaped, but not,
okay.
Not like I've seen people do this and all that. That might be another being, another creature of sort, not the one I saw. And when I looked up, I was like, oh my God. And I didn't want to look again. I kept
Was it
thinking, yeah.
Was it the effect of the eyes that was so horrible? I'm trying to get at what was so horrible about it.
The head. It was ugly. No face, no nose, no ears, big, huge, weird head with these big eyes that were just frightening. Okay, they were frightening. I had never seen anything like that. It would be like looking at a freaking Halloween mask.
Yeah.
I'm 27. I'm by myself. I don't know what's happening. I'm in this weird room. There's these two things, and now he's right there. And I looked up, and when I looked into his eyes, remember, he had no mouth. He spoke to me in a male voice, and he said to me, "We will not take you, and we will not harm you." And I'm laying on this thing with my head back, looking over there and trying not to make much contact with those eyes. And I said out loud, "Take me? Take me where?" I'm like, "Oh my God, Teri, get out of here." And the next thing I know, I was out. I must have fainted, or he must have put me out, because this, I know this now. I did not know this then. They manipulate and control you. They have an anesthetic type of effect on you. Anesthetic. Did I say that right? Yeah. And it's like they manipulate that moment, because this is so crazy. The next thing I remembered, I'm standing back in front of my Honda Civic, and I'm on the ground now. And I'm just staring at this thing in front of me. And I'm like, wait a minute. And this, Todd and Jim, is the most bizarre of it all for the night. I wasn't the same girl that went in. I had this completely different dynamic happening within me. Major conundrum. And I'm saying this out loud, standing in front of the craft. I'm going, don't leave me here. Take me with you. Don't leave me here. And I said to myself, Teri, shut up. What the hell are you saying? Shut up. And then it's like it wasn't me. Don't leave me. Don't leave me here. Take me with you. Do not leave me here. I hate it here. I don't want to be here. Please take me with you. And I'm this Christian girl with two amazingly wonderful children at home. And I'm going, Teri, shut up. I'm disciplining myself. I'm telling myself to shut up. And yet I did this probably 5 or 6 times, and I'm not kidding. And I'm getting over a little cold, so
That's fine. Let's discuss this a little bit.
Yeah.
So what I'm thinking this may be, and I know you didn't know any of this at the time, but the moments where you seem to go unconscious or faint are perhaps moments where you went into the altered state, where abductees who were able to get conscious recall of these sequences,
Right.
they'll go from a state where they're horrified, they've never seen anything like this before, in total shock. And then when this altered state turns on, I think it's an altered state. I mean, there's some debate on this.
Mm-hmm.
They all of a sudden, it's like it almost behaves similarly to dissociative identity disorder, or the compartments of the brain of someone who has dissociative identity disorder, and that when their alters take over, a whole dimension of memory that they didn't have access to previously is suddenly available to them.
Right.
They remember the beings, they remember past abductions, and sometimes they're like, oh yeah, I know these guys, and they calm down, and that part of them, that part of the self, that compartment, if you will, knows about the phenomenon, isn't in ontological shock over what's happening. Do you suppose that that's what explains the part of you that was wanting them not to leave you at the moment when they dropped you outside the craft, or what do you think that was as far as that voice that was in conflict with your normal self?
Well, in my estimation, Jim, it was myself. And I had just gotten some form of a data dump. I had just experienced something otherworldly. I had just seen with my own two eyes things I could not possibly equate with reality. I couldn't figure it out. And I'm not stupid, and I didn't know that a human being could be so befuddled and yet have this feeling of what just happened to me? Why do I want to go with them? Why don't I want to be here? But when I had my near-death experience, I wanted to stay with the Lord. I didn't want to stay here. I didn't want to be here. I wanted him to take me home. And he told me no, that I was chosen. And I thought, chosen for what? Well, obviously he was allowing me now to enter into this. And we all look at it a little differently. I didn't look at it as much as an altered state as I looked at it as an in-depth experience. I was learning as I was every moment in this experience, I was learning something about me, something about them, something about my spirituality. That's what I was taking in at the time, because I was talking to the Lord the whole time. I kept saying, Lord, you've got to be kidding me. What is going on here? Why am I saying this? And then I'm telling myself to shut up. And I don't know how long I stood there.
Was there like a back and forth between the part of you that was saying shut up and the other part of you was there a communication between the two of you that almost felt like
it was two completely separate things? It was the right brain and the left brain. It was crazy to me. It was
so,
beyond bizarre.
So it wasn't like the typical, dialogue that we have in our heads with ourselves sometimes, where we, beat ourselves up over something. There was something different about it, right? There was something, this other part of you that longed to not be left behind, was really kind of present and seemingly independent from the part of you that was revolted by everything.
So Teri, I know I will never find this image, but this is like the only thing I can find. Is this even remotely close?
It's remotely close. I mean, its eyes were up higher, and the face area was, just less. And there was no skeletal part of him. It was more fleshy, and he was whitish. That's more grayish. So yeah, it's not exactly like that.
Were the eyes black, solid black?
They really were. And when I looked up and looked into them, they almost was like I didn't see a pupil. I saw this huge blackness. It almost was like you could get in there, and I didn't want to get in there. Mm-hmm. It felt almost demonic, but it wasn't a demon. I know a lot of people say that, they think they're demons. They think that these things are demons. I do believe that the extraterrestrials have had contact with demons, and there may even be demonic extraterrestrial hybrids. I do believe that. The reptilians, I've had 2 experiences with reptilians, both as kind as could be to me, ridiculously kind. I've never had a bad experience. Even the tall white, when he scared the bejesus out of me, he wasn't rude or ugly. He said, "We will not take you. We will not harm you." And he said, "we." So I was like, what? And I guess he meant him and his 2 guys. I don't know if there was anything more on that ship or not. I don't know. I only knew what was happening to me while I was in it. But standing back in front of my Civic and having this conversation with myself, I felt like it was the flesh and the spirit fighting somehow, but like you said, I don't know everything. I'm not saying I don't believe in experts in this field. Nobody understands the whole truth. Okay. We
Yeah,
each have bits and pieces of it. Right. And yeah, when I hear expert, I'm like, oh yeah, here we go. And more than not, I think that there are people that would love to be an expert, but are truly not. And
you just can't be an expert. For one thing, I mean, there's just so much variance with
there's too
experience,
much.
where you
Was
can't call yourself an expert if all of a sudden you run into a person who describes an experience to you which is utterly anomalous from anything you've heard before and doesn't resemble anything that which is just commonplace, in this field. It's just the amount of variance. I mean, there's huge consistency, but the amount of variance, in experiences is just, it's curious. How
scared the heck out of me. A bug.
You can spend a lifetime, talking to abductees and then run into one, whose experience, resembles no other,
Right.
and the beings, resemble no other beings. Yeah, I totally agree that you can't become an expert in this field. It's just not possible.
No. You can be an experiencer in this field, and that's where it ends. And people write books all the time saying that, but from what I have personally lived through, I can tell you with every experience, there's a different form of fear. There's a different form of investigation that I'm doing. There's a different form of how it's happening and unraveling and appearing to me and talking to me. This is the one consistency. They're all male. All male. Never have I seen anything female. Never have I seen anything.
As far as that,
you know how people say this, oh, they came and they were, oh, they were so beautiful and they had, boobs and all this and a tiny little waist, I'm like, oh, please, you were dreaming. But I mean, maybe people can say that they saw angelic being like that or something from the demonic realm that was a familiar spirit or something like that. But as far as extraterrestrials, I'm here to tell you they are not like us. I have never seen anything. Now, I will say angelics are a different story and they can appear that way. But going back to standing in front of the craft, I was watching this craft and all of a sudden, it had been hovered like this. It went in a blink of an eye, less than a blink of an eye. And now it was vertical. And I'm like, whoa. How did that happen? And again, something I had never experienced, never heard of, didn't understand, couldn't make any sense of it. And then I stood there crying and begging again, please don't leave me. Please take me with you. And I said these words. I said, what's wrong with me? Aren't I good enough? And I thought, why did you say that? What does that have to do with, the price of egg? Why would you say something like that? And but I was burdened. My soul was burdened that they weren't taking me or answering me. And I was so disappointed.
it seems like you must have had some kind of transcendent experience in the pieces that you don't remember, or some kind of experience maybe resembling how one feels during an NDE, just bliss, you feel maybe we talked to Jeff Selver a couple podcasts ago, and he mentions how they did something to him to kind of cause an OBE experience, and he essentially had a very NDE-like experience in terms of the elation, and bliss of being, out of the harsh physical dimension. I'm just thinking that seems like something maybe like that may have happened in the the portion that you don't remember, and
Mhm.
that explains the longing, in the moments afterward of wanting to return, to that. It couldn't have been just this horrendous, painful, harrowing experience the whole time. It seems like, given that reaction of that part of yourself, maybe.
Yeah. Well, after it went vertical, I stood there looking at it, and like I said, I kept, pleading with it. And then all of a sudden, it shot up in the sky and stopped, and I could see it so very clearly. And I said out loud to the Lord, "You have got to be kidding me. How crazy is this night going to get? How crazy is this night going to get? I can't take any more crazy." And about the time that those words left my mouth, this thing, which was vertical, which was now the craft, with that little bump on it, is right there. Out of the bottom of the craft came a ball of light. And I am telling you, it was fire. It was fire. I could hear the crackling, and it was frightening. And one of the thoughts was, uh-oh, am I going to be consumed by this thing? What have I done? What have I said? Oh my God, is that thing going to get me? And then I thought, no, no, no. And I thought, why do I know it's not going to hurt me? And I'm still sitting there looking at it, and it's the same exact size as the bottom of this craft. It is identical, the size, and that was 42 feet high. Because remember, I came back and I measured it.
Mhm.
So it was 42 feet around, I guess, however you say that. And, it was just moving like this, like a fireball would. And so as I'm watching that, I no longer was saying, "Don't leave me, don't leave me." I was shocked now, thinking, "Oh my God, you've got to be kidding me." And then instantly, it didn't even leave a trail. It was gone so fast. It was gone in the blink of an eye. And now I'm standing in the middle of the road. I'm looking at my car. My car door is still open. I'm going, "Oh my God," and the car doesn't work. And I'm like, "Get in the car." So I got in the car and I turned it over. It started right up. And I'm like, what? Are you kidding me? And I said to myself, I have got to talk to somebody who knows me and loves me and will understand me and believe me. Well, who else is that? It's your mother. So I go to my mom's house. I lived on 32nd Avenue. She lived on 52nd Avenue. So I went to her house.
Before you get there, I just want to
Okay.
get this clear. So you had a complete continuity of conscious recall from the event. There was no suppression afterward, or it didn't weirdly sort of fade out of memory and then
No.
reemerge. So you had immediate conscious recall from the moment of the event, which nothing strange happened with as far as your recollection of it. It just stayed with you.
No, I was reliving it in my head going, "Oh my God,
Mhm.
who can I talk to? I've got to talk to somebody. I can't just go home now. I can't just go to bed. I just can't. I got to talk to somebody who knows me, somebody who loves me, somebody who will believe me." And I thought, I've got to go tell my mom what just happened. And so I thought it was, 2:30, something like that, maybe 2:40. And so I get in the car, and strangely enough, shocked me, the thing turns over and it's perfect. And I'm like, "Oh my God." So I turn the little thing away around, and I head to my mom's, literally 2 minutes away. I'm driving to her house and I'm banging on the door, and her husband comes to the door and says, "Teri, what are you doing here so early in the morning?" And I'm like, "Early in the morning? Oh yeah, I woke him up. He thinks it's morning. It's 2:30, 2:40 at night." And I'm like, "It's not the morning." I didn't realize, because I didn't know. And when you don't know something, you can't know it. Okay. I never heard of missing time. Now, This started happening at about 12:15, 12:20. It was now 4 a.m. in the morning. And Marty says to me, it's 4 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, no, it is. He doesn't know what he's talking about. He just got woken up. He thinks it's 4. It's really only 2. And so my mom is coming down the hall and she goes, Marty, who's at the door? And he goes, it's Teri. And she goes, well, for God's sake, Marty, let her in. And so he let me in and I ran up to her and I looked her in the eyes and I said, Mom, please put the coffee on. You are not going to believe what just happened to me. And she goes, what happened to you? And I said, Mom, please. I said, you've got to listen to it. I don't know what to make of any of this. And so I sat down on the couch with her and I told her everything. And I was in the moment still. And I was shaking. I was cold a little bit. It was 4 in the morning. I was trying to deal with all this. I was trying to put some pieces together. Nothing was making any sense. And she's just sitting there listening to me. Marty is making the coffee. He brings the coffee over and they're both just standing there looking at me. And I realize as I'm talking to them, oh dear God, they are going to call the white coats. I am probably going to end up in a nut ward. My mother, like I said, was an executive at Honeywell Aerospace. She was no dummy, no jerk, And I thought, oh my God, what must she think? And then all of a sudden, while I'm thinking that, she puts her hand on my knee as we're sitting on the couch and she goes, Teri, it's okay. I've seen them too. I jumped up and screamed at my mother. What the, why didn't you ever tell me this? Why didn't you ever make me aware of this? How dare you not tell me that this was reality? How dare you not share this with me? I'm 27 years old. I didn't know this was real. And so I'm yelling at her and he tells me, calm down. And I said, well, when did you see them? And she said, we've seen them several times when we go out on the boat, out on the Gulf of America now, but at the time it was the Gulf of Mexico. And she said we would go out. They had a houseboat and they would stay on it for a couple months every year because that was her time off from work. And they would rent their house out to some Canadian friends. And then they would take their houseboat and go out. And she said, we used to see these USOs. Now, I didn't know they were USOs at the time. Mm-hmm. She didn't say the word USOs. She said, we saw large green cylinder crafts come right up out of the water, shoot right up out of the water. And she goes, it was so bizarre. There was not even a lot of rippling of the water. And then they would hover right over the water, just hover there. And she said, we were like, you got to be kidding me. And I'm like, oh yeah, if I said that once tonight, I've said it 1,000 times. And she said, and then they would just go, and they'd be gone so fast, you didn't even see, a trail of them. And I'm like, oh my God, that is exactly what happened. And when the ones I was looking at earlier in that evening went towards the Gulf of Mexico at the time, which is America now, but that's the way they went. And I'm like, ay, this is crazy. And then I calmed down and she said, Teri, yeah. And Marty, her husband, said, we've probably seen him about 4 times out there, and he said, sometimes we were wondering, what the heck is that?
So let me ask you a question, Teri, real quick. Sure. This happened in Clearwater, correct?
Mm-hmm. St. Petersburg, Florida. Okay. I worked in Clearwater. This happened in St. Petersburg.
Okay. Because I lived in Florida I was born in Holiday, Florida. And then I lived in Florida for 20 years. And so I know the area. And in that area, Clearwater, let's see, what's next to Clearwater? Clearwater, Palm Harbor. Then there is Tarpon Springs,
Newport Richie.
Yes.
All of that is out there.
So in that area, have you ever heard of Anclote Island?
Oh yeah, of course.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. You can get to it by boat and
right. I've been at Anclote Island with my parents on their houseboat.
Yes, and it's a great place, and it's weird because you're describing cylinder type craft.
My
I
mother said cylinders.
I
Yes.
remember when I lived there years ago, there was people camping on Anclote Island,
Mm-hmm.
and they seen cylindrical objects.
Were they green?
That I don't remember, but they said that this thing come out of the water
Yep.
and it hovered for the longest time.
Right. And
Like
she
it
said
was,
the same thing. They just hovered there for the longest time.
yeah, and they were like, it was just like it was watching them.
Right. Yeah.
And then it went back into the water.
Yeah.
And it's just so coincidental that your story matches to what I remember hearing and talking to somebody about their experience. And Florida is like a huge hot spot.
Oh, please. It is a hot spot. It's a hotbed of paranormal. It's a hotbed of extraterrestrial and craft sightings, all of that. All of that. It's unbelievable.
So
the
that is
levels off the chart.
that's crazy that you say that, because I did the majority of my paranormal investigating in Florida, Ybor City, all around there.
Yeah, me too.
So yes, so
Mhm.
that is awesome that
I know
you
it's
have
hard.
that experience too.
Uh-huh.
And it's just when you mention the cylindrical craft, and that just clicked, because I was like, wait a minute, wait. I remember hearing a story about this, but on Anclote Island. So that's not far from Clearwater. And then, of course, St. Pete is not super far from Clearwater
Right.
either. So,
No, very close. All of that area is, we consider the Tampa Bay area, you know.
Yes.
And yeah, I mean, and I was there for 60 years, you know. I lived in Florida for 60 years before I moved here to Paris, Tennessee. And yeah, I had other experiences in Tampa, actually, coming home from Tampa on a date night. You know, I won't go and tell that, but, you know, I mean, I don't know what you want me to talk about, but just I've had so many different experiences.
Yeah. And I ran into my first demonic case in Palm Harbor. So, you know, that was my very first taste of a demonic presence. And yeah, so yes, your story, it just
I actually have done cleansing and deliverances in Palm Harbor. My first demonic experience was in St. Petersburg, down off of Fifth Avenue North, behind St. Anthony's Hospital. And oh man, I'm telling you. And I have proof of that, what happened that night in my eye. It burnt my eye.
Wow.
Why don't you tell us that whole experience?
We'll get into
so I'm 16 years old. Yeah. And it was the week of my birthday. And there were some friends of mine who I was incredibly straight kid, you know, didn't do drugs, didn't drink, didn't smoke cigarettes, you know, didn't hang out with the wild crowd. I was a really good girl, you know, and these two friends of mine were guy friends, but I had a lot of guy friends, you know, and girlfriends, you know, we were just a bunch of kids that hung out together. And they happened to be getting into pot. And they were saying, oh, for your birthday, I want to give you a joint and, you know, turn you on to a joint. And I'm like, oh, no, thank you. No, thank you. So, you know, and I have a very strong resolve. I am not easily led astray. You know, I know my own mind. Even when I was 16, I was pretty strong with all the craziness that happened to me. I learned to keep a level head on my shoulders so I could deal with things, you know. And so we're over at, it was Jerry and Eddie's apartment. Jerry had an apartment. They were a little older than me, but real good friends, knew everybody I knew. And we're sitting in their living room. and they are smoking a joint, and they want me to smoke this joint. And I said, no, I no thanks, And so they're passing it back and forth, and I'm just sitting there, and we're just talking. And I probably had a Tab. Back in those days, you used to drink a soft drink called Tab, T-A-B. And
a pink
and
can.
I was drinking a Tab with nothing in it. Okay. And so I'm looking at, I'm sitting here, and they were sitting kind of like, one to the right, one to the left. And I'm in the living room of his little apartment. It's a really one big, apartment. And the kitchen is just over here to the left. Well, all of a sudden I see smoke in the kitchen. And I thought maybe he had left something on that was burning. And I thought, it was really hot. And I don't know why there would be anything turned on, like a heater or anything that would burn. So in my mind, it wasn't making any sense. And I kept seeing this smoke to the left of me. And they were sitting kind of like this and like this. So they could see that way too. But I was the one looking straight out, and they were looking more at me. And we were just all talking and laughing and having a good time. And they're passing their joint back and forth. And Jerry wanted me to take a tote for my birthday. And I said no, but I reached out because he gave it to me and I was holding it. And all of a sudden I said to them, what's burning over there? And they both turned at that very moment and looked, and this cloud of smoke was rising and rising. And we're all looking at it like this. Can you imagine? They were stoned. I was straight. And it's coming up and up and up. And it got to about 5 feet, maybe 8 inches. It got pretty high, as high as a human. And all of a sudden, what?
I was going to say, like ordinary smoke, nothing
like
different or odd about the smoke.
It looked like an ectoplasmy kind of a smoke
so
that was
weird looking.
gelling. It was actually gelling. And, I'm 16. What do I know about that kind of crap? And I had a lot of really strange experiences, but I'm like, what the heck is that? And they're both looking at it, and they're not saying a word. I'm not saying a word. We're all in shock. Total fear. And all of a sudden, out of the top end of this thing comes this face. Frightening. Huge eyes with a strange mouth that was long and elongated, it almost looked like it had some form of strange teeth in it. Very demonic looking.
Was the face composed of the same ectoplasmic smoke material?
Yeah, this was in the 60s. Okay. So when I was 16, it wasn't material. It was a smoke vision, but it was forming. It was morphing in front of our eyes. Jerry and Eddie jumped up and ran downstairs to get out of that apartment. Oh, but me, I'm staring right at it. I'm scared out of my mind. I'm frozen in fear. I couldn't even move. And it's looking right at me. And all of a sudden, as it's looking at me, it comes right at me and goes right through me. And I remember backing up like this going, oh my God. And I knew it had to be behind me. And I thought, oh, hell no, I'm not looking. I jumped up and ran down the stairs. I almost broke my neck. I was going down so fast. I was hanging onto that railing, and I was tripping down those stairs. Scared. And I get outside, and Jerry and Eddie are standing in the front street area by the light pole, because it was at night, and they're like holding their heads going, what the hell was that? What the hell was that? And I'm like, I don't know. What did you see? This is what I saw, some white thing. And I said, and my eyes are starting to itch really bad. And I started itching my eyes, and I said, oh my God, my eyes are itching so bad. And Jerry and Eddie said, we're getting the hell out of here. And I'm like, whoa, wait, don't leave me. And I just kept getting at my eyes. And The next thing I know, my eyes are burning so bad. I'm like in tears. Jerry and Eddie leave. And I had my little, at the time I had a Corvair. I don't know if you remember those cars, but I had a little Corvair. And I got in my car and I was trying to drive and I'm rubbing my eyes. And I thought, oh my God, I took myself right to the hospital. My eyes were on fire. I had never felt a burn like that ever before in my life. And I went to the hospital and they saw me and they said, oh my goodness, what happened? Well, you think at 16, I'm going to tell them I just saw a ghost? Oh, I don't think so. So I'm in the room there and I said, I don't know. And she goes, did you have an accident, honey? And I said, no. And she goes, well, what happened? Did something hit you? And I said, no. And she goes, well, how did this happen? And I said, I don't know. And I'm like, oh boy, I am lying through all 32 teeth. They know it. I'm cooked here. What am I going to say? And she said, we don't have an ophthalmologist on staff. And it was about 11 o'clock now. And she said, but I'm going to give you ice packs. And I want you to put these ice packs on your eyes. And so she filled up these little bags with ice because we didn't, back in those days, you didn't have pre-done ice packs. So she put ice in these little bags, tied the top. And I was putting them on my eyes and it hurt so bad. The white, the clear that covers your eyes was hanging out of the side of my eyes. I couldn't get a full blink in and the pain was off the charts. She gave me the address of an ophthalmologist. And by the time I got out of the hospital, it was about maybe 12:30. I was going to try to go home and I said, no. I drove my car to the ophthalmologist's office and I parked it. I was so scared. I'm all by myself sitting there, 16, in the middle of the night, waiting from about 12:30 to about 7 in the morning. When the nurse finally pulled up, I get out of the car and run to the nurse. The bags of ice have melted. My eyes are on fire. She looked at me and said, oh my God, what happened to you? And I said, I don't know. My eyes started itching and I started scratching them and I don't know. And she goes, oh my God. She goes, well, the doctor won't be here till 8, but I'm going to open the door, let you in and give you ice packs. I had told her I had gotten the ice packs, but they were now bags of water. And, I couldn't sleep. I'd been up all night in pain and scared out of my wits by myself. And, I'm thinking to myself, some birthday weekend, and the guy, the ophthalmologist comes in and he looks at the eyes and he goes, were you in an accident? And I said, no, sir. And he said, what happened to you? And I said, oh, they just started itching and I started scratching them. And he goes, no, he said, you have damage in the back of this pupil. What happened? Did somebody hit you? And I said, no, sir. And I had never had eye trouble at all. He said, I'm giving you these drops. I'm going to numb your eye a little so you will stop itching them. Do not itch your eyes. Keep the ice packs. I had to put a towel and then the ice packs. And he said, go home and lay down. Don't open your eyes for several hours. He goes, you need to get this, back. They were inflamed. It was all red around my cheeks and everything. Many years later, I went to get glasses. And the ophthalmologist said, oh my gosh, what happened? You were in a car accident? And I said, no. And he goes, well, you've got a very dark area here in the back of this eye. And that, to this day, when I came here to Paris, I went and got, these glasses, and I have a new eye doctor. And the ophthalmologist said to me, every ophthalmologist I have ever had has said to me, oh, what happened? So I told Dr. Curtis Taylor here, the ophthalmologist in Paris, I said, you know what? I'm 70 now, and I'm going to tell the truth. And I told him the truth about what happened. And he goes, man, wow. Yeah. And I thought he was going to, laugh at me, but, he believed me. And I said, you're going to think I'm crazy, but, this is what happened.
That is incredible. And have you ever heard in your time any similar account like that,
No.
where a manifestation of a demon caused damage to your eyes?
I have never heard that, but I am living proof of it. And Jerry and Eddie live in Florida. They lived in Newport Richey. I lived in St. Petersburg. But Jerry had just moved from Newport Richey to, the place behind this area. I lost track of them. I don't know where they are, because I would love to interview them and sit with them and have them validate for you my story. But, I've never had a car accident in my life, and every ophthalmologist has asked me what happened. So, yeah.
Yeah,
That's incredible.
that is incredible.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I never heard of anybody having anything like that happen.
Never have I either. But again, let me just state this. I have now come to understand every single thing that I have endured and experienced in my own life was to teach me lessons and to make me aware of what can happen. Not that always does happen, but what can happen in the demonic realm, the spiritual realm, the extraterrestrial realm, the angelic realm, and that strange paranormal realm, like the breaking of the glass I was sharing with you guys. That happened to me in St. Petersburg also one time, where I was on my computer and all of a sudden, huge crash in my kitchen. I thought that the cabinets had come off the wall and hit the floor. And I'm like, oh, what was that? And I'm home alone, middle of the day, broad daylight. And I back up from the computer. I go in the kitchen. Nothing. And it sounded like all of my cabinets fell off the wall and fell on the floor. And I was ready to see something horrific and think, oh, what's this going to cost me? And there, nothing. It was absolutely spotless, like I left it. And I'm like, what the heck was that? And then it happened here, with Kevin and I. So I wasn't alone. But again, it was broad daylight.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, so it shows you that there's almost no limit to the extent of disturbance that they can cause in your house,
Right.
in terms of sound
Right.
and whatnot. I mean, that's like
Right.
the extremity of that. And in the experience with the eyes, yeah, that teaches you that that's possible. That something non-physical, that comes from whatever dimension or realm that is, can cause that to happen.
Physical
Can
damage.
attack someone like that in that manner.
Right.
And that's very interesting to know that that's in the realm of possibility.
And let me just say this. My takeaway from that day is, when you see something forming, people, if you're listening, if you see something forming and it starts morphing into a face, look away, get away. Do not get caught up into the fear like I did and allow this thing to do what it did to me. It manipulated me. It scared me out of my mind and I froze. And just staring at it, I believe, is what caused that burn. If I would have done what they did and got up and ran, I'd be fine. And I thought, okay, lesson learned. That's my takeaway. The other thing is, I'd like to share one other experience if we have time.
Yeah,
sure. Yeah.
Of a full-bodied apparition that approached me. This was in, let's see, the full bodied, that was in the 80s, and maybe 80, maybe 81. And so I'm at home, I'm in my room, and I'm literally reading a book, sitting on my bed and in my bedroom, and the kids are at school. And all of a sudden I look up and there's a man standing in the door. And I knew the man. And I said, John, what are you doing in my house? And he just looked at me with a smile. And I knew this man very, very well. One time before I was married, I was engaged to him to be married. And then he broke it off and married somebody else. And I really cared a lot about that guy, but I never even thought about him. And now all of a sudden he's standing in my doorway, and I'm questioning him, like, John, like, how did you get in the house? What are you doing in my house? And then I was like, what are you doing in my bedroom? And I thought, what the heck? And I mean, if I would have gotten up, I could have touched this man. He had on a white shirt. He had on blue jeans, Huarache sandals. He had his long hair. It was to about maybe here. And he had curly brown, very beautiful hair and big brown eyes, really nice, handsome man. And he had a belt on and everything, I mean, and
that's so weird. Like, because
totally
it seems like some selection, went into that process of creating that manifestation of him. They apparently chose the sandals and chose the clothing and whatnot. That's just an odd sort of fact.
Exactly.
that is true there.
They were tricking me. I was being manipulated, because the one that happened when I was 16, in the 60s, I would have never allowed that to happen again. So now this demon is coming and it's tricking me. It's got a new, a new agenda for me to experience. And so I'm actually talking to it. Big no, guys. Never address a demon, ever. Because
and it's talking back?
No, he never spoke. But all of a sudden, now I know John very well. Remember, I was engaged to him. And I knew every look that guy could have on his face. And what was weird was he was wearing what this was like 12 years beyond having ever even seen him. And I'm like, he's still wearing the same kind of clothes. I'm like, well, isn't that weird, But it didn't really register. And I'm like, what are you doing in my bedroom? All of a sudden, I tell you truly, this is what can happen in the demonic realm. And this was a full demonic apparition. He got this weird look on his face, like a smirk, and it was scary. I had never seen that face on the John I knew. And all of a sudden, he started going tornadic. I'm telling the truth. Tornadic, very, very fast, tornadic, but the eyes were still there. And now this thing is tornadic, and I'm scared out of my mind. It's still looking at me from within this tornadic spin.
So it's so fast that you can't see any definition in the body. It's just blur, motion blur. And was there sound that accompanied this tornadic movement? No sound.
Nothing. I froze in fear. And what I'm about to tell you is absolutely, I'm sure, shocking to your ears, because you've probably never even heard this before, but this can happen. I'm sitting in the bed still, looking at just this facial feature of just the eyes. I didn't see his nose or his mouth anymore, or even the color of his hair. This thing was going so fast, and never seen that before. Scared me to death. And as I froze in fear, I heard a voice in my left ear say, "See his name." And I knew the voice was telling me to see the name of Jesus. I couldn't identify his name. So scared, I couldn't think. And so he said, see the name. And I went, oh, okay. Now remember, there's a full tornadic spin right in front of me still happening. Okay. I think there's a, I don't know, a J. I think there's a J. And so I saw the J. It literally stood right there, the J in front of my face. And I went, oh, I don't know. I don't know. There must be a vowel, an E, you know, an E, you know, and then the E, I saw J-E, and I was so scared. It did not register. And then I'm like, oh my God. I don't know. An S, maybe an S. Is there an S? And then the S came, and I'm looking at J-E-S, and all of a sudden I went, Jesus! And I screamed it. Oh, but wait, I got to tell you what else happened.
Okay. Yeah.
Before that happened, and I'm seeing all of this, my spirit raised up out of my body. I was now having an out-of-body spiritual experience with this tornadic thing going. I said the name of Jesus, and all of a sudden my body separated from my spirit. I saw the back of my own head. I saw the back of my own spirit head. And I'm looking at my hair and the back of my head. And I'm like, what? And my arm flew out like this and pointed out of the room. And that tornadic thing went boom, down the hall, but it went into my son's bedroom. My sons had a bunk bed, and they both had one bedroom. And the door slammed on their bedroom so loud, it woke me out of my stupor of it all. And I jumped up and ran outside, and I'm outside in the front yard, and I'm jumping up and down like, oh my God, this crap that can happen. What the heck was that all about? Why did that have to happen? What in God's name was that? It wasn't John. What the heck? Tornadic. What the heck? You know, and my mind is just, you know, again, total conundrum, total craziness, trying to put it back together, trying to understand it. And then I'm outside like this in the broad daylight. It was only like 11:30. And I'm outside standing in the sun, nice and warm. And I'm thinking to myself, oh my God, it went into the boys' bedroom. Oh my God. I can't let the kids come home from school and see that. They'll be home at 3:00. I got to go back in the house. Oh crap. I'm like, no way, God, I can't do it. And I thought, oh my God, I got to do it. I got to go back in there. I got to get that thing out of there. And I'm shaking like a leaf, thinking, oh my God. So I open the door and I just stand there going, I cannot let that thing be there when the children come home. And I'm flipping on the lights. It's 11:30 on a sunny, warm day in Florida. And you know how light it is. I mean, the house is totally lit, but I'm turning the lights on because I'm scared beyond freaking belief. And I'm just walking very slowly going, oh God, please. You got to be kidding me. And we had this sunken living room, and I'm in the living room, and I walk up to the dining room now, and I'm walking in, and I've got this office area. I'm going through the office area, and now I'm going down the hall, and I'm like, oh my God. And my bedroom's to the left, and the children's room is to the right. And I get to the door, and I'm so scared, and I put my hand on the door. Oh my God. Holy moly. Something came over me so powerful. I could literally feel it. I wasn't afraid anymore. I was not the least bit afraid. Fear left me, and power came on me so strong. It was like I had walked through the valley of the shadow of death, and now I feared no evil at all. And man, I put my hand on that door, and I'm not kidding you. It was life-changing. the power that came upon me. I turned that doorknob and I went in that room and I looked around in that room and I didn't see a thing, but I said out loud, in the name of Jesus, I command you out of this house, out of this room, out of our lives. You are not permitted to come back into this space ever. In Jesus' name, amen. And I just stood there and I'm like, what the heck?
And then came back to normal at that moment, or did you? Or
Everything was normal. I wasn't even the least bit afraid. I'm telling you, I dealt with fear that day and my life changed. That was the day my life changed. I had been tortured with spirits and demonic activity. I mean, when I was like maybe 14 or 15, I was at somebody's house and they had a wall painted black, and I saw shadows blacker than black moving on that wall. Okay. Talk about freaking creepy. And I was like, oh my God, oh my God. And I remember saying to Karen, do you see those black shadows? And she goes, where? And I said, on that black wall, can you see that moving? And she goes, oh, did that move? And I said, it moved. And she goes, oh my gosh, Teri, what the hell is that? I'm out of here. And we left and we never went back there. And I thought, blacker than black, who sees that? You know? And I thought, oh my God. So many things had happened to me. I had been so tortured and so freaked out so many times. But that day that I saw John standing in the room and going tornadic and going into the kid's bedroom and slamming the door, these were tangible things that were happening. It wasn't just my mind or an experience. It was a spiritual, profoundly, unbelievably life-changing moment for me. And to this day, when I go out with paranormal groups, I'm not going out to talk to them. Hey, who are you? How'd you die? How'd you get here? How long you been? I'm there to get them the heck out. And they are more afraid of me than they are the psychics that usually come with us, because psychics are going to play with them. And psychics are probably possessed to some degree because they make these demon spirits their friends. I don't make these demon spirits my friends. They're my enemies. I'm coming from a different realm. I'm coming from a higher calling, and I don't want to play with them. I want them out, you know. And when we moved here, we had a ton of experiences. And ever since that day, though, I am not afraid. If something even now were to appear, I would go after it like white on rice. And anytime I've ever been anywhere that something very bizarre has happened, I get up and deal with it. And that is called overcoming your fear. That's how you overcome it. You deal with it.
So subsequent to that day when you saw the tornadic demon, and you have confrontations with demons, do you feel that same energy, or what do you think that was, first of all? Do you think that power that you experienced, do you think that came from you, or do you think that Christ consciousness or some angelic consciousness momentarily inhabited you? Or what do you think that was? And do you feel the same sort of power in these subsequent encounters?
I believe it was the Holy Spirit, and I believe I was walking in so much power that demon took off. I entered that room with so much power. It was the difference between a candle and a beacon. Okay. I was the beacon at that moment. My light was looking. And if I would have found that thing, I would have cast it into the pit. I just had so much confidence in who I was in Christ and the power that we have when we walk in the Holy Spirit. He's the highest of all powers. Everything else is below him. And I'm like, why would anybody mess with these lower vibrational, you know, why would they play in that realm? I'd rather be up here at the top, you know, of the pecking order than at the bottom. But that's why I'm not afraid. Do I still get attacked? Oh, you better believe it. I mean, there are some times all of a sudden something will happen here and I'll deal with it. I'll just say, okay, here we go. and I take authority over it in the name of Jesus, and I bind it and rebuke it. And I'm still going to people's homes, anointing them with oil, praying for them, delivering them, and sitting down and getting into a relationship with them and educating them about what needs to happen so that you can get away from these spirits. These spirits, you guys, are real. They are fallen angels, are the demonic realm, and spirits don't die. So they've been around for eons. They've been here since, the beginning. And, God cast Satan and his hordes here. They don't die. They're not dead. They're still here. The same demons that were in the Garden of Eden and at Antioch and in, Mesopotamia, all these demons that were delivered even by, Jesus, that went into the pigs. They're all still here because spirits don't die. So this is the realm we're dealing with. And I don't want to make them my friends and hang out with them. And they are nasty. They're manipulative. They lie. They shapeshift. They do tornadic things.
And maybe also quite sophisticated, right? And advanced intellectually.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's what I try to get people to understand. I think that they're quite intelligent, and that
they're actually more intelligent than we are, Jim, because they've been here for eons, centuries. You and I have been here. I've been here for 73 years. I don't know how old you are, but they've been here for centuries. Do you think that by watching people, and they know what you're going to do before you do it because they understand your patterns, they understand your belief system. They don't listen to what you say. They watch what you do. That's who you really are. What you do is what you really believe. And they know that. Satan, he's alive and well and taking people to hell all day long, and people don't even believe in him. There are still people that don't believe in him. We live in a very strange world. This realm is incredibly strange. And I've seen angelics. And they're very real. They are also spirits. They serve the Most High God, and they're here amongst us. And I've seen them. They've delivered messages to me. I'm sorry, I have to cough. Did that block it, I hope?
Yeah.
But okay, good. So, the thing is our eyes do not see everything that is around us. We only see certain levels of things. And yet there are many dimensions here with us that are in the room with us right now. We're truly never alone. If it's not angelic, it's demonic or extraterrestrial or spiritual. We are never alone. We walk this earth with a lot of other realms.
Right. We're being scrutinized, I think, all the time, Do you also think that, to me, what makes things even weirder is that I don't think that there's just a duality of energies. I think that there is a lot of entities and things that are kind of in between. And
there's a plethora of energies. Yes. Right.
I kind of refer to them as mid-range fourth dimensionals. They're not necessarily low vibrational. They're not ascended beings, like angels. And you have these, and I think a lot of people are dealing with these, and it's very difficult to make heads or tails of what their intentions are, and what games they're playing. I think there's a lot of coming from these beings, a lot of strange things that they get up to, and harvesting of energy and so forth.
Right.
Different types of energy, sexual energy, some beings.
Well, do you remember all those, things that were in Egypt? You've got the Sphinx, you've got all these obelisks, you've got all these different bird type men with bird heads and human bodies.
Yeah, like anthropomorphic beings. Yeah.
The sands of time have covered so much fact. I even believe in the pre-Adamic, pre-Adamic,
Prior to Adam.
pre-human, right? And what lived here on this planet before all of that are different types of what we call the myths, called gods, small g. And these beings were, in fact, half humanish like and half animalish like. People made these inscriptions of these things because they were real. And it's like the Inca lines. We have had so many different forms alive and living on planet Earth through the eons of time. God created everything that was created, and he allowed things to be here. The sands of time, and archaeologists have proven, they have dug up the Easter Island. I mean, all anybody has to do is take a good, strong look at facts that have been uncovered. And the Bible says in the last days, knowledge will increase. Well, hello, we're here. These are the last days. Knowledge is increasing. We're starting to see that the reason that all these things were etched into walls back in the day, eons ago, is because they were putting on those walls what they were seeing. They did see people coming from other places. They did see demonic entities. They did see dinosaurs, giants. The book of Genesis talks about giants, the Nephilim, and the giants the Nephilim actually had sex with women. I don't know if you know all that. You probably do. But it's
I know that verse.
in the Bible. It's documented fact from the first centuries of human existence. And I share with people all the time, God created us in his image. He did not create all of those other things in his image, but he still created them, and they're still here. And he allowed that time and space, and the sands of time literally have covered over everything from the flood happening, burying all those dinosaurs and all those fossils that we find now.
And maybe even prior human civilizations, maybe even multiple numbers of prior human civilizations.
Right.
Well, we also have to look at things in a different perspective when it comes to the Bible, because there's a lot of books that were taken out of the Bible.
That's right.
And that was done purposely because there was a narrative. So if you look at the first book of Genesis, it wasn't Adam and Eve, it was Adam and Lilith. And Lilith
there's all kinds of stories about it, right?
And then you had the book of Enoch, which was what you was just talking about.
I just bought that.
And there was giants and all this stuff. So, and then you can keep going. There's other books that continue.
Sure, there's Jasher. My husband and I have been studying Jasher. We've been we've read Enoch. We're looking at Jasher is amazing. It just, oh my gosh.
That's a non-canonical book.
It's all non-canonicals. I bought all the non-canonicals and all the Apocrypha, and I study those things because that actually talks about what has been seen through the eons. It talks about pre-Adamic. The Adam and Eve story is the lineage of Jesus Christ himself when the Word became flesh and dwelt among us. So he did take bodily form, which is why we have the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. And we are body, soul, and spirit. So we're created in his image. The angels are spirits beings only, and they live forever. And the fallen angels are spirit beings only, and they live forever. The other beings haven't lived forever. Off-worldly beings don't live forever. They have 1,000 years and then they die. And, many people, Clifford Stone and many people, he wrote a book called Eyes Only, and I strongly suggest you read it. He talks about, one of the extraterrestrials that he set free, that he let go.
Okay, I know that story. I love that story.
Yes.
how he described the extraterrestrials, that they would, I mean, clearly these were maybe not angels, but spiritually advanced beings of some kind that he described. Like they would not, they would permit themselves to be killed before they would lay a finger on you, before they would lay a finger on their
Right.
captors. They were that gentle and
That's right.
benevolent.
And, I had made that point earlier while we were
Mhm.
talking. I have never had a negative experience, but a good friend of mine, Travis Walton, was sharing his story with me. And he was saying how when he was on the craft, he was throwing things at them. Well, he had ran into the beam as they were taken off.
Mhm.
But they came back and got him, kept him for 5 days, healed him, and brought him back. That's a
I know.
healing story.
I
That's
know.
a
I think they saved him. I
story.
think he inadvertently,
Yeah,
got harmed, by
that's right.
whatever technology that was, and they took him to basically save his life.
And they
That's what it
brought
seems like to
him
me.
back.
Mhm.
And Hollywood, of course, said he was naked and everything. That's all lies. That never happened. When he came back, he had his clothes on. But the thing is Hollywood and that realm of disinformation and lies has put the giggle factor on truth. And I abhor that. And that's why when I hear people say, "Oh, I had sex with an alien," no, you did not. You did not. That isn't how they do things. And all these other things. There are many different realms. There's 12 realms. We live in maybe 4 of those realms, and we don't experience the realms on a daily basis, but the veils will thin many times and things will come to us and seek us out. I found out the night that my mother told me, "Oh, honey, don't worry, I've seen them too." Well, I got involved with this organization, which I left because it's just horrific. But I found out my brother from my mother's first marriage, who has passed away, my brother Philip, had also had experiences with extraterrestrials. My mother had experiences with extraterrestrials. I have. My son Joshua has. And that's 70 years compiled in one family. And I can now see, and I do now understand, because with each experience, you get a data dump of sorts. They bring you through something, but they do give you something. They really could have killed us. They would never kill us. That isn't their purpose. They don't even care about our intricate lives. That's not what they're here for. They're here for other reasons. And some of the reasons are to protect us from ourselves. Because, we say, "Oh, peace, love, we're such good people." But you turn your back and somebody will shoot you. And, we say one thing, but we do another. We cannot be trusted as a human race. We are not trustworthy unless we're good Christians, born again, spirit-filled Christians who actually do exhibit love on this planet. Otherwise, I can't believe a word anybody tells me, and the Bible even said the heart is wicked above all things, and who can tame the tongue? It's like, ay. We're really kind of a bunch of backstabbing liars, unless you become born again and you actually start dealing with the sin in your life. And I've actually thought this many times. It says in the scriptures, "For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but we wrestle against powers, principalities, rulers of darkness, evil wickedness in this age." Hello.
That's a great verse, because that's what
Yeah.
people
Yeah.
focused on, politics and even
Right.
the WEF and
Right.
the millionaires and billionaires, that seem to be controlling things. They're
Right.
missing the deeper picture, that this is
Oh,
all, stemming from something, much deeper than those levels.
right. And this is the reason I left, where I was on the board of directors. They're going in the wrong direction, asking all the wrong questions, going totally in the opposite direction they should be in. And no matter how I tried to change it, no one's listening. So I left. And the International UFO Bureau, we're going in the right direction, asking the right questions. We're bringing the spiritual realm into this existence. And the only way you can do that is if you know it. And I mean, understand it. It's one thing to know something. It's another thing to understand it and to be able to interact with it in the moment. And this is what we're doing. And those extraterrestrials are definitely here. They're definitely here with us. But so are the demonic realms and every other thing that we're dealing with. And yeah, I'm proud to be where I am. And what an exciting year ahead. We are just ecstatic about what's happening. And more you'll hear about it. But, you know, check us out.
Yeah, we'll do. Yeah, we'll have to do that. Todd, before we wrap this up, do you have any questions or anything?
No. Everything, it's been a plethora of information. And, I love these kind of stories. I love the contactee, abductee, paranormal. I encompass it all. I love it. And talking to you, Teri, has been, especially, you triggered some things that I remembered, like I was saying about Anclote Island and people seeing those cylindrical ships. So yes, and then we was talking about different places in Florida and Palm Harbor, and I've had a demonic experience there as well. So yes, it's very interesting talking to you about all this. I could just continue to talk forever on this. Actually, I'm doing more listening than I am talking, but yes, it's very, very fascinating.
Well, thank you. I am always learning, and I continue to learn. I mean, every day, something else will happen. And again, I always say, you've got to be kidding me, Lord, but he doesn't allow anything to happen to us unless he's bringing us through something to teach us something, because the next realm, when we do die, we do go on and live on. And from what I can gather from reading all the apocalyptic books and, Jasher, Maccabees, Thomas, Mary, all these books that are left out of the canons. And the reason they were left out was because the Catholic Church does not want the people to understand the power that we all have. So they are the ones who are guilty. Vatican is guilty, and they're the richest church religion in the world because they have been in cahoots with the enemy, with Satan himself. I really believe the Vatican is a seat of Satan's, and it's a very interesting place. I'd love to go there and start cleansing it. But, that's just my thought. That would be a heyday for me. And, I don't allow any of that to play any part of my life. And I know it sounds terrible because there's a lot of really good, loving Catholic people, but they don't understand. They haven't received the whole truth. They are committed and they're very disciplined and they believe in what they're doing. They really believe in what they're doing, but it's almost like, Satan has blinders on their eyes. It's just horrific what's happening, but it'll all come out in the end. And go ahead and quote me, because it will all come out in the end. And it's going to be this year, as a matter of fact, it's going to start becoming incredibly clear. By the end of 2025, I'm sure people are going to be at least 100% more aware of real truth, the whole truth. We've been lied to in America. Our government is not for us. They have been against us, what we've gone through in the past and how we've been manipulated. Taxes, this, that, overtaxing, taxing what has already been taxed, and doing this and doing that, trying to keep the people poor and stupid. Yeah, that game is over, and things are starting to change. And so there's going to be a lot of information coming forward, and with the extraterrestrials as well, and the spiritual realm.
What makes you so certain of that? Have you
I'm
gotten some kind of communication, or?
There have been data dumps all along the way. And one of the things that I was told was I was chosen. And that was by God himself. And I said, chosen? Chosen for what? And he handed me something, and it came into me, and he cloaked me. I felt it. That is truth. I was 21 years old when that happened. Very powerful NDE experience that it's just amazing. As a matter of fact, I'm doing a interview tomorrow about the NDE and one next week. It's so powerful. And when I look back on it, it again was God equipping me. I was chosen to be saying everything I'm talking to you both about right now. It is my divine appointment to be doing this. You know, and I've accepted it. I am ridiculed, I'm laughed at, and everything else, but I know what I know, and I know who I know, and I know he is not lying to me. The Lord doesn't lie to us. He leads us in the right direction.
And that what you just said, that hits me hard, because I will believe anything you tell me within reason.
Right.
It's your experience, and that is what we want. We want your full experience so that we can understand. We will never understand it how you will, but with you telling us how things were, somebody else out there might see this and go, oh my God, I had a very similar experience of what Teri had. And this is
I
how
hear that all the time. Yeah.
Yes, and this is how people connect with each other. So
Right.
by listening to you, Jim and myself are already connected to you because you have our full attention. So yes, and I think that people that laugh and ridicule other people, I think that's just childish. I think people need
It's immaturity, actually. It's an immaturity, and they're afraid. They're actually fearful of a new concept or a new dimension of understanding. They're afraid of it because, it is kind of odd to grow spiritually. It is scary. If you learn something new, you have to unlearn something old that you were believing. And if truth comes to you, now you have got to either one, accept it or reject it. And it can be scary to not believe the way that you were raised, or what tradition taught you, or what somebody told you, and you loved that person. You want to believe what the person you love told you. But I'm here to tell you, if it isn't coming from God, it isn't true. And so you've got to make it line up. And like you said, there were only 66 cannons of like 180 of them. Yes. And they were taken out on purpose to dumb you down and everybody else. But I'm telling you, if you start reading these other books, and I Bible study every day, at least 2 hours, sometimes 3. And on Friday nights, I keep Shabbat because it's the 4th commandment. Remember the Sabbath day and keep it holy. So I do that. I'm not a Jew. I'm somebody who has crossed over from ignorance to understanding and wisdom. And I keep the Shabbat to honor God. And I can't even begin to tell you how he meets me in that. He gives me understanding, and he shows me things I never saw. And I've been a Christian since 1973, and he is showing me things now that is just blowing my mind. That's why I'm telling you, by the end of 2025, trust me when I tell you, the world is going to wake up, because we are going to go through so much this year. Hang on to your hats. But 2026 is going to be a year that's going to be profoundly different. This year already is profoundly different. You know, the new administration with President Trump. I mean, look at the changes. He's made like 50 changes, and it's only, you know, he just came on in January 20th. And we're only on February 3rd, for heaven's sakes. You know,
Right.
I mean, look at what's
It-
changing. The world will continue to change. Trust me.
It also seems like with the whistleblowers that are coming out, like we're definitely nearing a threshold where mass awareness is about to happen. You know, I think
Yes.
that one or two more credible whistleblowers, you know, coming forward is going to, you know, arrest people's attention. You know,
It's
that
going to reveal Satan. Right. Satan will be revealed. He'll be fingered for the first time ever. What President Trump said was he was almost assassinated because they did not want this truth to come out. They wanted to let all hell break loose and bring back Sodom and Gomorrah and the time of Noah. You know, they just wanted it, you know, whatever feels good, do it. No, that isn't how this works. This has been set up by God, and it'll come back to God, and he will return and make it so. Trust me when I tell you that. That's more real than the breath coming out of my mouth. And the thing is that we're going to be going through all this, and more will be revealed. There is just so much. And with the International UFO Bureau, we are getting ready to bring out truths that are going to be epic, shocking, and it's going to have a completely different shift on the UFO community. You know, absolutely. We will have a seat at the table and a voice. And I am so looking forward to this, because this is what God is doing. And God is back in America. When they tried to kill Trump, he was spared. His life was spared because God wanted him where he is. If you're not listening to Jonathan Cahn, the rabbi, you should be listening to Jonathan Cahn. I don't know if you even know who he is.
No, I haven't heard of him.
Yeah, take a minute and tune into Jonathan Cahn. He is telling you the truth, and it is amazing. The changes that are coming, if people will just hear this word and take it into their heart, your life will change. You won't be the same when you wake up tomorrow, you know, because Jesus is coming after those that are his, that are called. And I was chosen to call people, and I was chosen to tell the truth about these dimensions. I was chosen for this, and I'm very proud of it. And he walked me through it so that I was fearless, and I love that. I am so humbled by that. You know, I was the biggest chicken on the planet. I was always afraid. And boy, it's a 4-letter word I don't even identify with anymore.
Well,
But
I'll
thank
tell
you so much for having me on.
I'll tell you, Teri, this is awesome that you've joined us and gave us 2 hours of your time, because I'll tell you, these things are important, and that's what we're trying to do, is get the word out. So, but with that said, we got to wrap it up.
I know. Well, someday I'd love to tell you about some of these other things. It
Absolutely.
would just blow you away.
We would love to have you back on. We definitely want to hear your NDE story. You're just full of a wealth of knowledge here, and we would love to tap into that more.
Sure.
Yeah, and I just want to say I just loved your attention to detail and just the power of your emotions throughout telling your story. You know, that was just great. That was just
and I'm glad that you gave us as much detail as you could, because a lot of people can't get that detail, but you have it down, that detail, and that really goes a long way with other people, because they can relate to what you're saying, people that have experienced. I've never experienced anything extraterrestrial type of thing, even though I want to, but I have not that I'm aware of. I know I've had some weird things happen when I was young, and I'm still trying to figure all that out. But
well, if you ever need any help, Todd, call me. I'm always here for anybody.
Absolutely.
That's part of my mission, is to be here for people and to help them understand what can happen. Doesn't happen with everybody, but it can happen. And I'm talking more than a plethora of experiences. I've recorded 150 of them on terilyng.com. And, I keep having them. I mean, they keep having, something going on in my life, even now, even just like I was telling you the other day. So all these things happen. And it's not like I don't, I have it every single day, but a month will go by and then something else will happen. It's my life. So, yeah.
Right. All right. Well, thank you so much, Jim. You have anything you'd like to say, or?
No, yeah, we'll just wrap it up here and we'll do another podcast in the future.
Absolutely. Yeah, Teri, we definitely would love to have you back on.
Well, thank you both so much. It's been so much fun just talking to you both. I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for watching, listening, and tuning in with us tonight. And, it goes a long way. Please give us a like. You don't have to subscribe or nothing, but we hope that you would. But the likes really help with the algorithms, and we thank you very much. Teri, thank you. And Jim, thank you. And we will see everybody on the next episode of Paranormally Beyond Disclosure.
Good night.
Good night. Thank you for tuning in with us tonight. We hope you enjoyed this episode. Please be sure to like, subscribe, and follow to receive notifications when new content is made available. A Paranormally Beyond Disclosure is looking to talk with ufologists, researchers, investigators, contactees, abductees, channelers, and more for upcoming shows. Or if you have stories, photos, videos, questions, suggestions, or comments, please contact us through Messenger or email us at paranormallypodcast@gmail.com. And you can also visit us at paranormallypodcast.com for more content and information, including all our social links. I thank you again for watching or listening, and we hope to see you on the next episode of Paranormally Beyond Disclosure.